We may not be able to get in on the sporting action like we used to, but we can get in on some exclusive offers from Renault. To celebrate their third year as official car partner of the GAA, Renault is offering a range of special offers exclusive to all GAA club members. So now you can take home the win right to your door. Check out Renault.ie/GAA to find out more.
With Renault, official car partner of the GAA, taking the passion of a nation to a whole new gear.
A grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lad. There's a small bit of a needle there. Come on, Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game.
Listen back to Oísin, and now they're really rolling. And I can tell you, there won't be a cow milk in County Clare for at least a week.
Hello everyone, you're very welcome to the Renault Irish Examiner Gaelic Football Show. My name is Paul Rouse and I'm joined by the former Armagh footballer Oísin McConville and by the Tipperary and Sydney Swans footballer Colin O'Riordan. Colin, the basic question, where are you?
Good question to start off. We actually got relocated to Melbourne 2 weeks ago now to the day. So we were in Sydney and there was a small outbreak there. So we only got 3 hours notice and we were told to get to the airport within the hour. And we're jumping on a flight to go to Melbourne for the foreseeable future. So we're not sure how long we're going to be here for, but we're here at the minute. So just in Melbourne City.
And are you living out of a hotel room at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm in the hotel room here now. Downstairs, we obviously have the team room and physio room and stuff like that. But you're basically living out of a suitcase here for I don't know how long. I can't see us getting back to Sydney anytime soon. So it'll be for probably 6-7 weeks anyway. But
you have your own room at least. You're not sharing.
No, you're not sharing. That's one of the perks. All right, you get your own room. You have a bit of space, so it's it's nice. Like at the same time, it's a hotel room, so you're kind of a bit confined.
I want to take you from the hotel room that you're in and put you back in Páirc Uí Chaoimh before last year's Munster final against Cork. The national anthem is playing. What are you thinking?
Oh, I suppose I was probably just nervous at the time. I knew myself and the lads knew that I'd be starting during the week, but probably for me, I knew that obviously being named on the bench and then knowing myself I'm going to start, but not everyone else knew I was going to start, probably felt like, there was a small bit of pressure on myself, which I didn't mind, but it was the fact I didn't want to be kind of the laughing stock or, people to be saying, or probably have the perception that he's back for the holiday and he just jumped straight into the team. So I knew I had something to prove there. So that's all I was thinking for the whole week building up to it, and especially during the anthem. I just wanted to get the ball thrown up and get moving and get going. That was probably the front of mind for the whole week, but there wasn't anything. Obviously a bit of nerves coming back into the team, but at the same time wasn't overawed or anything like that.
When did you come home last year?
It would have been, we finished in August, and I think or September did we finish, and I was home probably middle of September, October, the end of September, sorry, and I had to be home for 3 months. So I was back in January here, so October, November, December I was home.
And did you play any club football before you rejoined the Tipperary panel?
No, I didn't know anything. Dave texted me and just said, will you come in and do a few trainings, see what it's like, see how you go. And I just wanted to get in and just have a kick with the lads. Like I wasn't even thinking too serious about anything. It was just a case of get in there and kind of enjoy yourself. And I just went in, had a look around, and just got chatting to the lads again. And it's probably when you go back, you realise the chemistry you have with all the lads from back in the day, and that was like, it hits you straight away, that kind of way, and you feel part of it again straight away, which for me was all I ever wanted to be,
And what were you doing the day of the semi-final, like a Munster semi-final against Limerick?
Against the one we played against Limerick?
Yeah.
I was in the stand with Charlie McKeever. Oh, we weren't, I'd like to say I was doing more than I was, but it was just whatever we saw, we kind of relayed it down to the bench if we could at all, and that was it. It was more just an extra eye in the stand, and maybe a different perspective of what was happening, and I think that's all I was at, really. I wasn't changing the world or changing the game in any way. It was just a case of if we saw something, let them know, and they'll see what they think. And it was just another brain really that you had in the stand.
And you had been back in training for 3 weeks at that stage, is that right? There was no prospect of you playing that day?
No, there wasn't. There wasn't any prospect playing against Limerick. It was, at the end of the day, I think you had to realise you're contracted here, and the risk was just too much. Like, it was. I'm not saying the risk, it got less once you got to a Munster final, but at the same time, you kind of have to weigh up these things at the time. And I suppose once we played Limerick, it was kind of, or once you were playing Limerick, it was kind of a case like we knew we had a right chance of getting to a final and that, but at the time I probably wasn't ready either, if I'm being honest. I was only probably in there 2 or 3 weeks before that, and it was just, I was looking around for most of it. I was engaged a little bit, but same time I was just in kind of enjoying myself more than anything. And I'd no aspiration to play, or obviously I wanted to play, but I'd no inkling that I would be able.
And how did you manage to convince the professional outfit that is Sydney Swans to allow you to play an amateur match back in Ireland in the middle of December or the start of December?
Yeah, look, I think the biggest thing for me, and I've said it numerous times, but it was just them understanding what it meant, what it meant for me to represent Tipp, and what it meant for me, and what it meant for people at home to represent where they're from. That's probably the biggest thing. The biggest thing I wanted them to understand for me. And
how did you do that?
Initially, it started off with, I sent we've a triple captain here policy, so it's 3 lads who are captains, essentially joint captaincy or whatever. So I sent all 3 of them a text and just said, I explained, like, as articulate with my words as I could, that what it meant to play for Tipp, and the bloody Sunday, everything that went along, and the impact the GAA has on lives in Ireland. And I just wanted them to get that understanding. And the second I sent the message off, it sent off a fairly decent sized paragraph on what it meant to me and the people at home and my family and stuff like that. And I think once they understood that, and once they realised the significance of what it meant for people at home, I think that's when they really started to understand. And one of the 3 lads, our captain over here, Joey Kennedy, he picked up the phone in Sydney and gave me a call and just said, "Look, Carl, I'll go straight to the head coach with this, and I have your back regardless." So when the captains of your club are probably telling you they have your back, and regardless what anyone says, no one will judge you. If he says no, he says no, but we're not going to judge you any differently for wanting to play. And that for me gave me the drive and the ambition just to go ahead and ask the hard question to the head coach and the general manager over here, which I did in the exact same way. It wasn't a case of I did anything differently. I literally copy and paste the same message I sent to the lads, and just wanted them to understand what it meant for me to play. And yeah, it took them a few days. They probably mulled over it a bit, but they picked up the phone, gave me a call, and geez, I probably had a grin on me from ear to ear when I got off the call. And I think that's when everyone around me knew that I got the green light. So it was.
How long before the match was that?
It was only a week, I suppose. It probably, when I rang him Sunday night, maybe Monday morning. It could have been. What was it? No, it could have been 2 weeks. Sorry, 2 weeks maybe. I rang him Sunday night, and then 2 weeks later we played the Munster finals. So, they got back to me Wednesday morning because there was a bit going on over here with the trade period and stuff like that, players' movement. So I probably got them at the worst time. And I was expecting the head to be up in the chopping block when the trade period was happening as a result of the message. But when they rang me back and said, "No, we're happy enough for you to do it as long as we're," the biggest thing for them was they didn't want to be covered for if something happened to me. So you just had to sign a waiver. But again, I was happy enough to sign that. And once that was out of the way, it was a case of let's get the ball rolling here.
But you're putting your livelihood on the line by doing that.
Yeah, I suppose you are, but at the same time, you don't really think about it because at the end of the day, I grew up playing with all these lads, and I just wanted to go out and play with them again. And I know you can talk about a lot of things in life, but I suppose at the end of the day, you do things that make you happy, and that's the only reason you played sport initially. Like growing up, all I ever wanted to do was play with lads and have a bit of crack and have a bit of fun, and that's the joy of GAA for me and the joy of sport. And obviously you play professional over here and you get paid for it, and it's fantastic. But at the same time, it's the love for the game, and it's the love for sport and love for have that ability to go out and express yourself that I don't think you get with anything else. And for me, my release is sport, and that's all I was thinking about. It was just, put simply, that's all I was thinking, really.
And you said you were nervous before the game, and you talk about playing sport for the love of sport. Did you enjoy that Munster final?
Yeah, it's a very good question, to be honest. Like, I did enjoy it, but at the same time, I was nervous. Like,
You wanted the final whistle in a way as well, did you?
Yeah. Oh, Jesus! Of course, I wanted the final whistle when that last high ball came in. Jeez, I wanted to drive my fist through the 60 yards up the pitch. But no, it was, and at the same time, I do love it and I enjoyed every minute of it. But I guess you're probably right. Looking back, I enjoy it now. But at the time, you're probably in the moment, and every contest is as if it's the last one, and that's the way you have to look at it. So I'm not sure, for me personally, do I enjoy any game I play, because I just want to go out and get it done and perform to the best of my ability. And people might say that's probably not the best way to do it. You got to enjoy every ball. But I think if I start to enjoy every ball, I lose a bit of my edge. And for me, it's just always a case of being on edge. And so the enjoyment factor for me probably comes from maybe taking a high kick out, or at home anyway, or here crashing into a hard contest. That's probably my enjoyment, and I get that from being on edge. So the enjoyment factor is probably different for everyone, but that's how I get mine.
How many layers of pressure were on you, Colin, that day? Like, when you think about the emotional roller coaster of even just getting to play first and foremost, but then also probably, you've already mentioned in the back of your head, you're taking somebody else's spot who's been there all year, and that adds another layer of pressure. And are you thinking about all that before you go out on the pitch?
Oh, I try not to, but then again, Oísin, like yourself, you can't probably deviate away from it. I'm lucky enough. My family and my partner are very supportive, and they probably distract you in terms of they don't allow you to think about them things. And for me, that was probably lingered in the back of my head. About the biggest one was taking someone's spot that played there all year, and I wanted to make it clear that it wasn't my intention to come over on a holiday. And I think I've said it again, that I wanted to come in and actually make an impact. And I think if the team, and I hope they did realise that you can add something to the team, and I guess that's all I wanted to do. And I think that lifted the pressure then as well, because that they value you and what you're capable of doing. And but there was a certain element of, like, I was going in there. I remember the night before, and I probably have a little routine of going up to the church just to light a candle before every game. And it's something simple, but it's something I do, and I hadn't done it in years and years since I've been over here. And it's just something I do when I play GAA at home. And even that was just like, Christ, this is actually happening again. Like, I'm going up here again, I'm lighting the candle, and it sounds so irrelevant to so many people, but it's them little triggers that probably make you realise that there is a game on here. And they're probably the only pressure I probably put was the only pressure I probably put on myself was the one I put on myself. Sorry, and that's, for me, was something I'm able to deal with, and something I've probably pride myself on, that I don't really get fussed with outside noises. It's the inside ones and the pressure I put on myself that sometimes are my downfall. But at the same time, that's my driver as well.
I used to visit a couple of graves before I used to go to every game, and obviously that was possible for me because it wasn't a million miles away from where they are, so we can understand that. The other thing, the outpouring of emotion after, is that just a pressure valve just going, I've succeeded what I wanted to succeed in, and all that pressure's gone now.
Oh, it definitely was. I don't know if it was a pressure valve, or it was more just an absolute outpour of emotion. Like, it was, I look back on it, and I rarely cry over anything, to be honest with you. Like, I wouldn't consider myself a very emotional person, and it was just that I don't know what came over me there for 20 minutes after the game. If I looked at anyone wearing the Tipp jersey or a Tipp top, I'd just start crying at them. And I don't know what it was. It was just an incredible feeling, and it was something I've always said, if I could bottle that feeling and go back and pull it out whenever at any stage of my life, it'd be my one wish, because I conquer anything in the world. that feeling, and just dropping to my knees at the end of the final whistle and realizing that, you know what, we've actually done it. And it's just an incredible feeling, and one that, geez, I wish I can emulate again, because I tell you what, you conquer the world if you could do that.
It was the most unbelievable day of GAA that I have experienced. I don't know if it was because of COVID or what, but we went from watching the scenes, obviously with yourselves, to Armagh. Mickey Graham couldn't finish his interview. You had the
Callaghan,
Cavan, Tomas and Raymond Galligan. And I think this may sound ridiculous, but even seeing guys like you cry, I think at a time when a lot of people were very down on what was happening within the GAA, I think that was a day that we should all mark in the calendar and say a lot of people's faith was restored in Gaelic football, and also no harm for the big boys to cry sometimes, because it encourages others,
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. Like, obviously, you don't want to show any weakness or anything like that, but the amount of grown men that have come up to me afterwards and since it, and I've got messages and heaps of them just saying, and some of them afterwards were just simple thanks, and that's all it was, like, thank you. And I cried in the corner like a little baby, and you're looking at these lads like you're 50, 60-year-old grown men, and they have the image that you're never meant to cry, you're never meant to show weakness. And one lad in particular, he's a 50-year-old man, and honestly, he'd break stone with his hands, and he just told me he went to the corner and cried like a baby for about 5 minutes after we won. And I suppose hearing stories like that, it just it makes everything worthwhile, and it's just that, like I said, that outpouring of emotion that people, you can't control it, and it's the special thing about the GAA. It's what it brings in people and what it brings out in people that just make it such a special organisation, and the real fabric of everything we believe in.
Sorry, Paul, I know I'm hogging a bit. Just one more, Colin. Colin, the one about the way you started that game, I think a lot of people had a fair idea that there was something different was going to happen. You just went for the jugular straight away. I mean, you were so direct for the first 15, 20 minutes, definitely till the water break. I mean, was that were you trying to find something out about Cork, or was there something you knew about Cork, or were you trying to see had they a medal after all, or what was the story?
Oh, I think it was just a case of don't wait for the game to come to you. A lot of teams wait and suss it out for the first 20 minutes, but at the end of the day, I think you have to take the game on and take it to the people, especially when you're the underdogs. You can't wait to see what'll happen, because you might get the chance, and that was probably our mindset. Just take the game on from the dot, and don't wait for see what they have or see what their boys can do. It was a case of let's go at them and let's test their mettle for a while. So I suppose it was probably on your point of testing them out. It was test them early and just see what they're made of. And I can't say it was any tactical thing or any strategy we had, but it was just a case of just go out, lads, and just take it on from the goal. And I suppose if you wait for someone to wait to see what the team has, you'll probably miss your opportunity. So we wanted to make sure we didn't do that.
I think it's not one of the favorite. It's my favorite interview of all time after a sports event is Damien Lawler's interview with you after that Munster final. And I know Damien would have been involved with you when you were playing underage in Tipperary, so there was a connection there. But in that interview, you talked with like absolute gratitude about the Sydney Swans and what they'd done for you. It was an incredibly humble interview in the sense that you were making it very clear that this wasn't about you standing up doing an interview. It was about what happened for Tipperary football. But there's also the fact that it was Bloody Sunday, the anniversary of Bloody Sunday, and you were wearing a different jersey. And you referenced wearing a jersey in the interview. Did Bloody Sunday matter? And if it did, in what way did it matter?
Oh, I suppose, yeah, like we did. It's not something we went into the week talking about. It was, I guess, we wore the jerseys in training just so people wouldn't get them on the day of the Munster final and think, oh, different jersey, or this is new and never seen it before. So we wore them for the whole week in the AVB game essentially, and that's just stuff like that. But I can't. I don't think we mentioned it too much, but at the same time, it was in the back of everyone's mind that you know what, like Michael Hogan and all these lads, and I'm not a martyr or any of that, but like at the same time, these lads are on our jersey now, and you know, there was an element of, right, this is an occasion, lads, and think about, even thinking about 100 years ago, the All-Ireland semi-finalists were the same four people, like it's the same four teams. It's just incredible when you think about it. Like you couldn't write it, the script, you couldn't write the script that happened this year. It was just, yeah, it was incredible. I suppose to answer your question in the backwards kind of way there, it was probably something we didn't really discuss, but I think everyone internally understood what it meant, and I think you have to have a certain understanding of the history, and it's probably what drives you along a lot of the way, and what makes the GAA so good is our history, and yeah, it's probably just it was probably just a general understanding everyone had.
What was it like to arrive home after that match as a Munster champion?
It was pretty special. It probably didn't sink in. I know afterwards I said there it couldn't believe we won it, but it probably hadn't actually fully sunk in until we got back to Ballyporeen and the crowd that was there. Christ, COVID safe officers probably weren't around, similar to the scenes in Cavan, but at the same time it was just, yeah, it was incredible. Like you're going through the small little village, and you know, South Tipp is, people think Tipp is just a mad hurling county, but South Tipp is incredibly strong football, stronghold. It is like this. It is. There's like Hurling, yeah, Hurling is second in South Tipp, and I don't think anyone would argue with that. But at the same time, like these lads have been starved for so long, and there's so many people that came before us that, and just to see them there with tears in their eyes, like lads have given everything down through the years just for that moment, and they wanted that so bad. But the fact that they were just as happy that we had it made us feel like that we do this for more than just ourselves. It was for everyone that came before us, and that's, you know, that's really special, and that feeling is just as good for everyone personally as it is for them.
And your dad is a Cork man. How did that?
He's not. No, he won't like that. No, my grandfather was a Cork man.
Your grandfather's a Cork man. Sorry.
Yeah.
Right. So
Dad's a South Tipp man, so that's where the football comes from. That's
a grievous insult that I passed to your father. So I apologise unreservedly.
That's all right. Yeah, Dad played for just 8 or 10 years for the footballers in Tipp as well. So.
And can I ask you? You then had to reset for an All-Ireland semi-final. How did that work?
Yeah, it's a tricky one again, because you're on such a high, and obviously you get Monday and Tuesday off, and you're back in Wednesday. I think we were in Wednesday night for obviously a recovery session and a few strides or whatever it was, and like everyone's still on the high, but at the same time you want to park that and get back on the wagon, or I certainly did anyway, and a lot of other lads did as well. But there's going to be that element of, you know, this, we've conquered so much this year, but at the same time now we have to focus again, and we really tried to put it to the back of the heads. You know, it was a case of, right lads, we have 2 or 3 weeks now, let's really knuckle down and see what we can achieve from now on. And I think we did. We probably did park it. We parked it maybe Friday. We came in and we were back on the track, or back on the pitch. And it was a case of, right lads, we're back at it now, and that's it. And there probably wasn't much. There wasn't any talk about the Munster final. There was a special bond there, but there wasn't any talk. And it was a case of get on with it. And obviously on the day against Mayo, it didn't work out the way we wanted. And for whatever reason it was, that probably 15 minutes before half time. But at the same time, I don't think it was. Maybe there was an element. Maybe I'm naive, and there was an element of a hangover from the Munster final, but I think we came back in and we did everything we could to prepare as well as we could.
The difference between playing for Tipperary and playing for Sydney Swans, you've spoken there about doing it for more than just ourselves, or doing it for more than just yourselves. You've spoken about the love of place and the meaning of the game. How difficult is it for you to motivate yourself in a different environment? Is it just easier when it's place, or is it all internal?
Yeah, it's a good question you're asking, because, you know, you come over and you travel across the other side. And I'll be honest with you, as a kid, I grew up and I didn't care if Sydney Swans were in the grand final. I didn't give a damn. I didn't know anything about them. It just wasn't front of mind. Whereas growing up, all I was watching was the great Tipp teams growing up in hurling or football, whatever it was. And you're watching these lads and you just want to play. So coming across the world, and you're probably, whatever you travel, 50, 30,000 kilometers or whatever it is, and you probably have to delve into the history there as well, which our club is incredible at doing, and they provide every first year player with a booklet, and we have an induction night and stuff like that, and it gives you a real grasp of what the club is about and where our roots are based in the club. And I think that's why we've been so successful over such a long period. It's because we value those things, and we value people knowing the history of the place. And when I came in and I saw that, I said, you know what, this is very similar to home. They share the same values here as we do at home. And we're lucky. We're one of the lucky clubs. And I say lucky that we're not in Melbourne, because probably 95% of every player in the AFL comes from Melbourne, whereas we're in Sydney, so they all have to travel interstate. So everyone lives together, everyone trains together, plays together, eats together. So you're with each other 24/7. And that's why I say lucky, because you get to know each other more so. And if something's wrong, like, you know the lads inside out, and you become great friends. Whereas in other clubs and in other parts of Australia, where players are probably from that area, not everyone buys into it collectively. So that's why I think I can get myself up and have the same kind of passion and same energy playing over here as I can at home, because the way they go about inducting players in when they play, and it really is a special place to be.
And the training, the nature of the preparation for games, how different is it?
It is very different, very different. So I'll give you just a quick example. Like if we played this week, we played on a Sunday, and Monday was his full recovery day. We didn't do anything. It was a day off essentially. You go into a Tuesday, and you have a few meetings, and today is Tuesday, so you have a few meetings, and you do a few weights in the morning, and it's mainly basically recovery as well. We had a small kick around and a few strides, and the rest of the week will be pretty similar. There's no 2 hour, 3 hour sessions. It's all, I guess it's different in terms of the GAA, because we played 23 weekends in a row. So you just have to get up for the games on the weekends and be fresh. But at the same time, it's all emphasis on recovery. It's what you can do during the week. So our main session will be on Friday this week, because we play Sunday again. It'll be 2 days before, and it probably won't be longer than 40 minutes in the total session. And it'll be competitive, but it won't be over the top. So lads will always have that edge for the weekend. Whereas back home, certainly before I came out here, and I know it's changed a bit in the last probably 6 years in terms of training, but lads get like flogged, week after week, and some lads travel 2 hours down the car and are expected to go out and do these massive sessions for 2 hours. And I know and I understand it's different, because you'd only have that certain limited amount of time with people, but at the same time you'd wonder, is it more beneficial? Is the case of less is more at some stages? And I think it's trying to get that balance, which is easier obviously in professional sport, but at the same time, I think it could be implemented in GA.
What is the balance between skills work and physical training in Australian rules preparation?
There certainly is it's something that probably you can tip the scales very easily. Lads want to do more. There's no doubt about that. We're all competitive by nature here, and in every sport, and lads want to do more. But you have the sports science guys who look after GPS and all that stuff. And if you hit your certain allocated amount of running you have to do, well, you won't be doing any more, and that's the reality. There's no such thing. You can do a few skills, but you try to incorporate them into the session. We have a thing called technical skills. It's something simple, and it's less strenuous in the body, and it's just literally the fundamentals of the sport, and it's just handballing and kicking, which again in the GA I think people can do more of. There's goes fundamentals of the game are just ignored, and at the end of the day, that's what you go back to when things aren't going well, or when the game's in dispute. Like, what does everyone go back to? You just go back to the fundamentals. Can I kick it properly? Can I hand pass it properly? I think there's not a massive opening. I'm sure there's teams doing it, but at the same time, I think there's not enough time spent on the fundamentals.
Have you been following the fortunes of the Tipperary footballers over the league campaign?
I did. I watched it, and a bit disappointing, but I was tuned into it all right, yeah.
And what is your sense of where things stand before Kerry at the weekend? Tipperary, defending Munster champions, going out to play Kerry, who are, I suppose, posited by most people as the true contenders to Dublin's crown. Yeah,
again, it's obviously Kerry or Kerry, like, you know what I mean? They'll be they'll always be there, and they're an incredible team. And this year especially, I watched the league game against Dublin. They played probably one of the few games it was on a good time over here, and I got to watch it. And they look very impressive inside in Thurles, and they look very impressive. And it's going to be a challenge. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, every game we go out to is a challenge, and we're probably going to be underdogs for most of the games. So you just have to grasp that and enjoy it, and try and probably get something out of that. You know what I mean? You can go in as favourites to games if you want, but I think the underdog tag is something that they probably love, and I know the lads love it at home. And I'm not saying they're going to go out and blow Kerry out of the water, but at the same time, a lot can change in a couple of weeks, as we've seen with a lot of teams throughout the years. So losing to Longford is obviously a massive kick in the teeth for them when they had aspirations to get out of Division 3. But at the same time, you never know what can happen. A couple of weeks since that game, and you'd hope to be a response.
Is it psychologically more difficult to prepare to beat Kerry than it is to prepare to beat Cork?
Yeah, I think our group all up along, it was an unusual group we had from under 15, because we actually played Cork, in most of our finals that we won. Like we beat them in the under 21, we beat them in the minor final in 11, we beat them 21 final in whenever it was. Like we never actually played Kerry too many times, so we knew it's probably a thing with our group maybe, and the group that's in there at the minute, that more of a case of we know we can beat Cork because we've beaten them all up along, where we've never played Kerry. So it's always that that kind of want of a better, I don't know, like that ground that you haven't played them. Like that's what I'm trying to say. That's probably the biggest thing when you play, the difference when you play Cork and Kerry. You played these lads up along, and just the way Cork always beat Kerry, and then we were lucky enough to always probably get over Cork.
This weekend, though, it's a challenging one for Tipp. Do you see yourself playing football for Tipp in the future?
Oh, I'd love to think so. Like it's obviously a challenge this weekend, but I'd love to. There's nothing I'd love more than to be going back there and playing. Like at the same time, I realise the opportunity I have here and the chance you have here. And while obviously at the minute I'm probably not where I want to be over here, it's a case of I'll put the head down. I'm not going to stop trying to make it over here first. And that's the thing. I'd love to say, yep, I'll definitely play for Tipp again. But at the same time, who knows what'll happen in the future? I'd love to think so. Yeah, absolutely. But I'll give this one hell of a crack now for the last 8 weeks, and whatever happens after that, we'll assess then.
Okay. Oísin, will Tipperary beat Kerry at the weekend?
No chance. I just think.
Could you clarify that? Is that? Could you be a bit more clear on what you mean?
Well, I think there's a couple of things at play. I think Tipperary look to me like a team playing with very little confidence. As Colin said, the aspirations would have been to get out of Division 3, but to go the other way, and that hasn't worked out. Winning a lot of times can make you soft. And I do believe that if you consider a team like Tipperary constantly battling against stuff, even within their own county, as far as priority between themselves and the hurlers. You look at last year, the opportunity they had, unable to grasp that opportunity and win a Munster title. All the emotion, all that sort of thing, and then to come out this year and try to kick on, but in actual fact, it's going the opposite way. The confidence very quickly starts to drain away from everything that you've done. All of the things that you're willing to do the year before, you mightn't just be willing to do as much. I think majority of footballers have been there. Things change along the way, your priorities change, and they don't just purely and simply, I don't think they've worked hard enough this year in any of the games I've seen them, in particular in the last game where they thought something might happen for them. If you're looking for a direct line of form and you see Longford's result at the weekend, that's another worry. And then on top of that, you see what Kerry have done to Tyrone a number of weeks ago, regardless of what they did to Clare. So I'll be really worried about the numbers game when it comes to this weekend's game. Like, there's no way that Tipperary. I don't think there's any way that Tipperary can win the game, but I do think that on this occasion they can get something out of it. You know, they can salvage something from their season by playing with the sort of gusto and pride that they played with last year and work a little bit harder for each other, and that, you know, that collective thing where the sum of the parts are greater than the individuals. And I think if all those things come out to play, then they can salvage something out of their season. But at this moment in time, it is a bit of a car crash, the whole thing.
This weekend also sees Cork play Limerick. Who'll win that match?
That me?
Oh, sure, have a go at it.
Well, I tell you what, I think Limerick have a great opportunity to win this game. A brilliant opportunity to win the game. Cork will be under all of the pressure as usual going into that game. I think it at times has looked as if Cork are maybe moving in the right direction, but there has been too many results where, you know, it's just too many question marks. I still don't think I don't think they have the structure to compete with the big boys. It looks as if they have the physicality, but structure, the way they want to play, not direct enough. You know, like even the game they played against Clare, where at times they looked as if they could have blown Clare away, and then times where they looked as if they had an absolute notion of what was going on, and that's happened too often for me. So, like, I don't have any trust in Cork whatsoever, and I think it's a brilliant opportunity for Limerick. Brilliant opportunity for Limerick.
Colin?
Oh, I probably haven't watched enough to really give my side of it. But again, I'd agree with Oísin. Like, I've seen enough of Limerick, and even last year they should have beaten us in the Munster semi, and they were by far the better team. And yeah, they're not a bad team. And I'm only going off a few scorelines I saw really, and what I saw last year, and they're not too bad.
This thing with Cork blow hot and cold even in the space of 70 minutes. Is this much more of a thing for an amateur team than a professional team?
I think consistency is probably the biggest thing, and I don't know, like I don't think so, like, because at the same time, like we I'll give you an example. Like, we played West Coast Eagles during the week, and on Sunday, and we beat them on 92 points, and the week before that they won. You know, so it's kind of like, how do you go from winning by 6 or 7 goals the week before, and suddenly you're after losing here by 92 points? You know, it's a case of, and you know what, they might win next week again. It's just they had an off day, and that's it. And I think consistency is massive. Probably more so over here because it's 23 weeks in a row, and if you can probably put a spell of 10 weeks together, you're probably going you're in a good place. You know what I mean? You're making the final. You're having a real crack at it. Whereas at home, you just have to be consistent the whole time, because otherwise you're gone. So yeah, I don't know really to Oísin, whatever you think yourself. But.
No, I think if you take that away from sport, Paul, I think us guys are better doing drama or music or stuff like that, because I do think that last year gave us a sense of that. I think no matter what sport you're interested in or you're watching, if it was a correct science, I don't really think we'd have the interest or the drive for it that we have. I think it's the shocks and it's the endless possibilities that keep us going. I think just look at France in the Euros and teams like that. I look how Denmark have used like emotion and like we're always told, let's take the emotion out of the equation. And all, fuck, if we take the emotion out of the equation, what equation do we have? But I do think this though, Paul. I do think this is a very, very important weekend from a Gaelic football point of view. And I know we don't want to go into the structures thing, but the one game that I'm very interested in this week is Derry and Donegal. And the reason for that is because structurally and financially, and coaching wise, from underage up, I do believe that Derry are have put a real massive couple of years in. They seem to have all the structures in place. They have a manager who they're going to give time to, and they haven't done that for some time. They're going to give some time to, and I'm interested now is, can a team like that, with the resources and the coaching and the time, can they close the gap to the likes of Donegal? Because if Donegal come out this weekend and win with 20 plus points, I think we've got a real problem on our hands, because if we're looking to change structures, what are we going to do? Put 6 teams in the championship and leave the rest out in the wilderness and intermediate or junior championship? So I think it's a real important weekend. And I do think that, like, when I watched the games even last weekend, and I thought, is there a possibility of a shock? Let's just stick to Ulster just for a second in the games that I attended. Even though Antrim for a long periods of the game were competitive, there was an inevitability about what was going to happen. And when you're there and there's an inevitability about what's going to happen, it takes away from the whole occasion. And I think it'd just be interesting to see if, like, I'm not even talking about shocks anymore, but I'm just talking about, can a Derry get close to Donegal? And if they can, then that's the template for everybody else to go, listen, this is how we there's a possibility of closing the gap. Look at Offaly at the weekend, your own crew, right? So look at the conversion rate. Do you know what I mean? But that was a game that realistically they could have won had they taken the opportunities that they had. So, like, but I do think that at this stage, we need some sort of shock, or somebody, stepping up to the mark and saying, we might be in Division 3 or we might be heading for Division 2, but we can take on the big boys. And until that happens, there's a sort of an inevitability about how every, even though when I said a couple of weeks ago, this could be the best Ulster Championship we've ever had, the next 5 games better be good, because because it hasn't been great so far.
When did the tackling end in Ulster football? Like, when did it all come so nice?
Well, I think like last weekend, for the first 20 minutes was shocking, because if as soon as you went close to your opponent, the referee was blowing the whistle for a free kick, and that's not Ulster Championship football. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just been so diluted. I mean, it's so sanitized. It's scary, and I think it's almost as if players are playing with their hands tied behind their backs now, because the physicality from the games that I've seen has just completely gone out of the game.
So Tyrone can't.
Do you think? Sorry, Paul. Do you think the crowds have an impact? Like, I've noticed over here playing in front of no crowds. I think it does. Whatever it is, the umpires, they let it go more when there's crowds, because the crowd are roaring, everyone's a bit more on edge. I'm only looking at over from here, but like, you find when there's no crowds, there's more free kicks, and there's a correlation. So I don't know, is there something to it? It definitely isn't hurting. I think I'm a strong believer in that. But I don't know. I'd just be interested to see or hear what.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree with that, and I think that was the case during the league. And I think there was stuff that referees got away with that they wouldn't get away with had to be, a packed house. But the only thing I would say is there was 1,700 people in the athletic grounds on Sunday, and there was a decent atmosphere there. There was a good old buzz, when you walked into the ground. It had changed. 500 people the day before in Clonus, there wasn't a murmur. Do you know what I mean? So I do think that there was really no excuse for the ref on Sunday. Like, I mean, it was powder puff stuff, really was.
Tyrone will bring something different, though, won't they, to the Cavan match?
Yeah, but I think when I'm looking at this match, I'm wondering, like, my expectation is that Cavan will bring something that we haven't seen all year. They're not as bad as results would suggest. They still have the nucleus of that team that won an Ulster Championship. They also have Conor Moyna back. Don't know how fit he is, but like, he would be a massive plus for them. no Darren McVeety, he's in Australia, but yeah, I still think that Cavan can really put it up to Tyrone, even though I've tipped Tyrone to win the Ulster Championship.
Colin, you played against some of these Tyrone players and the Tyrone management in the under-21 final. What are your memories of that game?
Yeah, it was probably a game I tried to forget. I talk about crying and emotion after a Munster final. Jesus, it was the other end of the scale when you played them in the All Ireland final 21s. But yeah, they're a talented bunch, and I think that a lot of that team have gone on to play senior footballer. They make up a lot of the backbone of the senior team, and they're certainly a tough team every time you go out to play Tyrone, and yeah.
There'll be a negative. Whereas if you look at Mayo Leitrim, when you played against Mayo last year, what did you take most from the way Mayo played?
It was probably something simple as their tackling. Like, they tackled ferocious, and I remember I got the ball the first time I touched the ball in the semi-final, and it was a case of you're swarmed with three lads around you, and they're good at it. You know, it's organised. It's not just chaotic coming in, and they're well able to tackle. That was probably my big. Their physicality was a lot more than what Cork brought, and I'm not sure if that's because they're bigger men, or I'm sure it was an element of it, but it just felt like they had a real intent to tackle them, and when they went for the ball or when they bottled you up, it was a case of you're not getting out of it. That was my biggest take.
They're brilliant at stripping the ball.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing. And looking back, like they obviously scored an awful lot from turnover against us in the semi, and looking back, we probably carried into tackle too much against them, and they obviously put an emphasis on it. They have to, because otherwise you wouldn't be as good at it. But yeah, that was the biggest learning curve for me.
I think one of the things that I've noticed as well is it's the relentless nature of the Division 1 teams, in that, you know, they keep going. Like, I looked at Fermanagh last week. I sort of felt as if Fermanagh got as much as they could out of their individuals for what, 20-25 minutes of the game, and you know, they had worked really hard. They kept the ball for 2+ minutes. They ended up kicking a score. Rory Beggan had the ball down. He pinged it 75 yards to Carl O'Connell. Carl O'Connell kicked it into the forward line, and I think they ended up getting a free that Jack McCarron kicked over the bar. But it's just relentless. It's relentless, and it's the physicality, and it's how much, you know, they wear you down. And the thing I noticed, not so much the Antrim-Armagh match, but in particular the Fermanagh Monaghan game, was when these guys walked out and they started to warm up, was the physical nature of the Monaghan lads. And I'm not talking about height. I'm talking about just, you know, how big they looked. And honestly, Fermanagh looked like kids compared to them. And that mightn't tell in the first 20-25 minutes of the game, but eventually, you know, it definitely puts paid to a lot of teams. And I think, you know, that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the relentless nature. Colin talks about the tackling and the physicality in the tackling. You talk about it getting the ball stripped. Add all those things together, you know what I mean? It's very difficult to keep with a team like that, with, you know, with 15 players and 5 lads coming off the bench. You know, and you look at even one thing I noticed as well about Monaghan at the weekend was just the quality that they had on the bench. I mean, look at their subs. You know, all experienced, but big, physical, imposing players, like, you know, who have a presence when they get on the field.
It seems to me that Donny Buckley has made a huge impression on Monaghan's tackling even since he arrived there. Just as the legacy of what he's done in Mayo is, it seems to be there. Before his
warm ups are absolutely class too. Class.
Go on, talk about them.
Well, they're just some of them are very, very simple in their nature, but they just look very impressive. They look as if, you know, it looks as if there's meaning to them. And Colin mentioned about the fact that they, you know, practice a lot of kicking, they practice a lot of hand passing and stuff, and the Monaghan warm up incorporates all of those simple little things, right down to picking the ball off the ground. You know, not picking the ball off the ground, but picking it up with your toe.
Before we go into the weekly calamity that is the predictions round,
Oh my God.
Oísin, I want to talk to you about Dublin. What did you think of Dublin last weekend?
Didn't think much of them, to be honest. Thought it was a very un-Dublin-like performance, but I don't think that they'll be all that worried about it. I think that the stuff that would be worrying Dublin management and players and fans is that a lot of what's going on around the Dublin setup seems even more un-Dublin-like, and
Such as?
Well, just the Cluxton situation just doesn't that none of that adds up for me. Like, I mean, as a manager, you just gotta say, listen, Stephen, are you know, if he doesn't answer the phone, if it means driving around his house and asking him, like, are you playing or are you not playing? Simple as that. I really think it comes down to that. You know,
Do you think that hasn't happened?
Well, not by the nature of Desi's interview. It certainly hasn't happened. So, but it needs to happen, because that's the uncertainty wouldn't be good for anybody, and certainly wouldn't have the two young goalkeepers having.
Do you think? You know, I think if you're Evan Comerford, you're there thinking you're playing away, and everyone's talking about Stephen Cluxton. Meanwhile, you have another game under your belt.
Paul, you're a very knowledgeable individual.
You don't mean that. You don't mean that.
No, I do. Especially around Dublin football, because we all know that really and truly they are your favourite team.
It's absolutely outrageous.
It's still true, but this Dublin second keeper, what's his name? He played against Galway. Michael Shield. Is that Shield? I think. Okay. In my estimation, he's a better keeper than Evan Comerford, from what I've seen of him.
You should ring Desi.
No, but I know, but so it's not just impacting him, but it's impacting, like, is Stephen Cluxton going to come back next week? Is he going to be all of a sudden, not part of 26, all that sort of thing? But I also think, and this is the big part of it for me, that the general uncertainty of somebody, ready to decide while the championship has started. I mean, for all we know, like, there could be other issues around why Stephen Cluxton is not there, but, like, somebody needs to, that needs to be relayed to the squad members, and the fact that hasn't happened, because genuinely, when I heard that Stephen Cluxton was undecided or we weren't sure if he's going to be there, I felt as if everybody in the changing room knew. It was just us that didn't know, and that was fine. I don't see a problem with that. But I think when you're in the situation that you're in with him at this stage, I just don't think that it's good, and in particular because they're looking to try and get a settled team. They're not playing out of their skin, and the championship is upon them. Like, I understand they'll get through Leinster. I don't have a problem with that, but it's further down the line, and the further down the line in a normal year might buy them 2 months, but in this case, it's only going to buy them 3 or 4 weeks. So I think there's an issue there that needs to be addressed pretty quickly.
Colin, you played against some of those Dublin players in an All-Ireland Under-21 semi-final, and you played with others of them in UCD in football here. What did you think made them as good as they are?
I suppose, yeah, I've played with Merchant and the likes of these lads, and obviously Owen's an exceptional talent with his speed and that, but I only watched again. I watched a small bit this year, but last year going back and watching some vision, and I think going back to the last point, I think they're a different team completely without Cluxton. I think you can talk about Conor Callaghan and these lads, and they're exceptional footballers, but to me, and looking at it from the outside and from a different angle, I think he pulls all the ropes there. He dictates everything from the back, and the way even he comes up as nearly a full back on the opposition kickouts and plays that role so well, and just different little subtle things he does, but has a massive impact for the team. And I think individually they're an exceptional team, and playing with the lads, they're a great talent. But I think it's even more impressive that collectively what they've done for the last 6 years, just individual talents are one thing, and I'm sure every team is individual talents, but can you bring them talents together and make them a team? And that's the hardest thing in any sport. And they seem to have done that. And, the lads, like I said, they're exceptional footballers in their own right, but as a team, they just go to another level.
Okay. We thank you very much for joining us. We run through the weekend's matches at the end of every show, and we do predictions. Now, last weekend, there were 7 matches played, and we had Mossy Quinn on, and Oísin and Mossy both got 6 out of 7. They actually predicted Roscommon would beat Galway, which is kind of staggering. Whereas I, on the other hand, predicted Galway. I mean, not to blow my own trumpet, but that's facts.
Did you get 7 out of 7? Yeah,
I did in facts, and I think we'll move on to next weekend and discuss the matches from next weekend. I think
you went for Offaly.
I went for Offaly against Kildare, but I get a pass on that one.
Heart ruling head.
That's
why you always go. That's why you always go for Dublin as well. Heart.
Yeah. There's a new line of attack. Cork versus Limerick in the Gaelic, or first game of the weekend. Oísin.
What the hell? I've insulted Cork for the last 10 years, so I might as well continue. I'm going to go Limerick to win by 3.
Oh, interesting. Colin.
I think Cork will be a bit too much for them.
Yes,
Limerick are all right, but I think Cork still too much.
That's exactly what I think. Tipperary v Kerry. Oísin.
Kerry by, I'm not even going to say it. Kerry by a lot.
Colin.
I think I'll have to go ahead here, and then I'll say Kerry.
Okay. I'm sorry to put you in that position. Tyrone v Cavan. Oísin.
Tyrone, but I do think it'll be a better game than a lot of people think.
Colin.
Tyrone.
Yeah, same here. Leitrim v Mayo. Oísin.
Mayo.
Colin.
Yeah, you needn't ask that one.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. So in the last game, Derry against Donegal. Oísin.
Donegal, too much ammunition off the bench. Too much ammunition. Derry so well organised, stingy at the back, racking up good scores up front. In Shane McGuigan, they have a superstar, but Donegal just have even the players they brought off the bench the last day. I mean, Jamie Brennan was on the bench the last day. He came off the bench, he was electric. So as much as Derry will stay with them, just have too much off the bench. Donegal.
Where's that one on?
It's Ballybough Fair.
Oh, yeah, I got Donegal.
That's in Donegal, by the way.
Thanks for that. I'm going to try and I'm going to have a punt with your Limerick. This is my version of Limerick. I'm going to go with Derry in that one just to cause a shock, because Ulster football badly needs a shock. It's something to give it a jolt, to put it into life. That's it. Thank you to Larry Ryan for running the podcast, to Tony Lean, to Renault, to John Fogarty, to everyone at Examiner Sport for making it happen. A huge thanks to Oísin, and especially to Colin for joining us from Melbourne. We'll be back soon.
With Renault, passion for what drives you. Official car partner of the GAA.
A grain of rice. A grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lads. And that small bit of a needle there. Come on, Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game.
Listen back to Oísin.